Right, here it is, the big one, folks. Canelo Alvarez versus Terrence Crawford going down Saturday night. Um, Sorry if I seem a bit laboured in this video. I kind of just feel fucking knackered. But we're gonna get into this. We're gonna give this a breakdown and prediction it deserves. This is probably gonna be my hardest prediction ever. Because with this fight there are so many intangibles, right? Like and that obviously a prediction is always an educated guess. But you go off what you know, right? You list out a set of things, and then you go from there. But this fight has a set of things that you simply just don't know about, such as how much has Canelo got left, how could Crawford perform at the weight, kind of thing. My problem hasn't always necessarily been with the weight itself. It's been with the acclimatization to the weight. Crawford moving up from 154 pounds to 168 pounds. It's not even a fact. I'm sure he could I don't think he could ever build himself into being a proper super middleweight and have long reigning success. But say he could build himself into a super middleweight and go on a run there, like a proper run. They have a career there almost, or a section of his career there. It's Say he could do that. It's if he's acclimatized to the weight. Right? You will see in a lot of fighters, David Benavidez, when he moved up to light heavyweight, he fought Alexander Vostik in his first fight. Kind of really, a lot of people forget he looked really good for the first 6 rounds. People would say he looked bad at the fight. He looked really good for the first 6 rounds, and then kind of slowed down in the later half of the fight and didn't look too great. And he's usually a guy that kind of Benavidez is known for his cardio and his punch output. So I was like, oh, that's a bit weird. That was more than likely because of the weight. He was used to being, a career super middle and then moving up to light heavyweight. And then in his fight against Morel, his cardio didn't look bad at all. Like he looked like David Benavidez of old. So it's more with these fighters. By the way, I'm not saying Crawford could ever be a true. I'm not saying he could ever really make a true run at 168 pounds. But I'm saying if he could, the weight would still be a problem moving up because of the acclimatization. But this fight is kind of a double standard because I don't. The weight is Canelo himself isn't the biggest super middleweight, but he's a lot more used to being a super middleweight. He's carried that weight for 6 years. 6 years, right? He's carried that weight for that's a long motherfucking time to get used to a weight class. You've seen him grow into the weight class. Um, Whereas Crawford never even really got a chance to grow into 154 pounds. Right? You kind of see with Crawford, he kind of started at lightweight, did his thing there, left the weight class quite quickly, didn't really unify any belts, won a belt, moved up to super lightweight. Moved up to super lightweight, but where it was more comfortable, he spent a bit more time there, became undisputed, then moved up to 145, 147. Once he did that, he stayed there for a few years, got his big fight against Errol Spence, became undisputed, then moved up to 154 pounds. And the timing of that with Riyadh season and all that, it's just come along at the perfect time that this Canelo fight is now it's now on the table and realistic for him, and he's taken it, you know. And it's also another thing for me because Crawford's my favorite fighter ever. I used to like Canelo a few years ago. Before the Bivol loss, I liked Canelo, but since then he's kind of I haven't really liked the way his career's gone. I really wanted the Benavidez fight, I didn't get it, and that's enough for me to kind of not be. I'm not saying I'm not a Canelo fan, but I'm not as high on him as I was. Um, so it's also going into this without any sense of bias, and there's always going to be a sense of bias creeping in when it's your favorite fighter. But my pick is Canelo, and we're going to get into why. I would go over their recent form, but I did that in my preview video from a few weeks ago, and I think the recent form. We'll get into it a little bit, but I think the recent form is deceptive. Terrence Crawford's last fight over a year ago against Israel Madrimov. People are saying he looked good in that fight. I just think like styles make fights. I think Madrimov was just a tricky style matchup for Crawford. Uh, so was the Mean Machine a few years ago. Kaliaskas or Kalavaskas, whatever his name is, but I'll call him Mean Machine 'cause it's easier for me to say. Crawford tends to struggle with kind of twitchy, awkward guys like Majimov, like Mean Machine a few years ago, and of course against Israel Majimov not all too long ago. I think the feints where Crawford is a very adaptive fighter, but I think his natural kind of style is of that of a counterpuncher. You can see that with the Errol Spence fight in a few hours. He's a very good natural counterpuncher. That's where I think his style is the strongest. And those kind of guys give him trouble. It isn't indicative of how he looked because if you look at him from an athletic standpoint, his feet look good, his hand speed look good. People saying he couldn't hurt Majimov after moving up. That's I don't know what fight they were watching. Sure, he didn't rock or drop Majimov or of course knock him out. But when Crawford did kind of get his rhythm and timing in the kind of last two, 3 rounds, he was hurting. He'd hit Majimov with a flush shot, and Majimov would go, "I don't like this. I'm getting back in my box. Move out the way. Reset. Go again." That's what happened when he hit Majimov. Majimov felt it, and Majimov didn't like it. You can see that. I don't know. I don't know what the fuck people are. I'm not being biased because he's my favorite fighter. That's an objective fact. Look at what happened when he started unloading and got his timing and rhythm against Majimov. Majimov didn't like it. He would retreat for 5 seconds, reset, go again. Um, he was very stoppy starting that fight in general, but I mean when Crawford was buzzing with a shot. Um, Canelo's last fight was against William Skull. I mean, if I had to say anything about Canelo in that fight, it was his feet look slower. But even if his feet were quicker, I don't think it would have helped him in that fight. If you've ever trained boxing, you know, if you ever sparred more specifically, those types of guys that are just going to move, and not engage are pretty much impossible to cut the ring off against because they're just moving, they're just running about. It ain't the same as someone who's trying to actually box with you and engage and actually trying to win. Um, but his legs did look slower. But maybe he wasn't picking his legs up because he knew it's going to be a pointless effort anyway. Because a few fights ago against Jamel Charlo, even though that was a fight we can draw parallels to Jamel Charlo coming up 2 weight classes, but I don't think Jamel Charlo wanted to fight. I saw the face-off of Crawford and Canelo earlier, literally from a few hours ago at the press conference, and you could see intensity in Crawford. You notice with Crawford when it comes to the later half of fight week, when it comes to the press conferences and the weigh-ins, especially weigh-ins. I remember against Jose Benavidez, he gets a bit intense. You can see it in his eyes, which makes me think this he like my kind of thoughts to this for Crawford. This is his one last fight, one last payday, and he's going to go out on it. But Crawford's always struck me as the type of guy that isn't going to say he isn't going to be the type of guy to be like, "This is my last one. This is my last big payday. Whatever happens, happens." He's going to be, "This is my last big fight, my last big payday. I'm going to give it all I fucking got," because he's got that kind of bully mentality. But against Jamal Charlo, I thought Canelo's footwork looked. I thought his feet looked good in that fight. And Charlo didn't run to the extent of William Scott, but he did run. Um, it's weird because you look at some individuals of Canelo, like you look at his last few fights as a whole. Decisions very underwhelming, right? But I've just said I think his feet are getting slower. I think his hand speed is getting slower. I'll mention punch output in a minute and combination punching. That's also very important. I will get into that. But it's weird because I say those things about his punch speed and his foot speed, but then you look at the Jamal Charlo fight as an individual fight, and you don't look at his form as a whole. His feet look quite good. You look at the Edgar Berlanga fight. You look at the left hook he dropped Berlanga with. It was quite a quick shot. So it's like some fights he's got a little bit of it there. Some fights he doesn't. It's really weird. But as a whole, he is a bit of a. I wouldn't say damaged, but he's a bit of a faded product of what he was. Um, Overall, I think since the Bivol fight, I think his punch output has slowed down tremendously. You look at Canelo in years past, he was a very good combination puncher. Canelo's always picked his shots very well, and when he paired that with combinations, he was fucking lethal. He's always had some of the best setups in the game to kind of set you up with a big shot. But in recent years, since that Bivol fight, I think people are gonna say, "Oh, because he got, it took something out of him." Mm, maybe not necessarily. I think he was hitting a lot of arms in that Bivol fight. He couldn't really get to Bivol consistently with anything. And I think you saw Canelo in that fight slow down, maybe because of the weight, but I think it's because he couldn't hit Bivol. He slowed down in that fight majorly. Like, we've never seen Canelo slow down like that in a fight. And I think since then he's been like, "Oh, I can't risk that happening again. Like, I'm slowing down as it is, like from a skills perspective, like my athleticism's going a bit. I can't risk gassing out in front of these guys. So I got to maintain as much skill as I've got, because obviously you're getting more tired in the fight, your form starts to break down, start to lose your shape. So he's like, "Oh, I've got to maintain as much almost composure as I can." If that makes sense, like composure within his technical ability, so he doesn't lose form and break shape. Because that's what you see with fighters; they'll start dropping their hands, their feet will get flat, and they'll cross their legs and they'll square up. Like, I think that's the thought process of Canelo. Maybe it's like a something he's not really thought about, but it's kind of happened. Like how when a fighter gets knocked out, they're kind of more hesitant to take risks, but it's kind of subconscious. I think that's what's up with Canelo and his punch out, but also he is getting old and he has got miles on the clock. This is a I might talk for half an hour. This is a fascinating fight. When it was first announced, I was like, nah, but because of the weights. But now I'm like, this is quite fascinating. Let's get into Crawford a bit. Crawford, people are saying, "Oh, the blueprint's out there for Crawford, Bivol, and Floyd." Yeah, yeah, definitely. Like, we've seen Canelo get beat. We've never seen Crawford get beat at the end of the day. But I don't agree with that narrative. I think he can take bits from both of them, of course, because he's a very good, complete fighter. He's got a complete game, but he isn't the stuff Bivol and Floyd were doing against Canelo kind of stood out. Whereas Crawford has never shown those standout elements in his game. He showed a good all-round complete game, but the standout elements it took to beat Canelo in those fights he hasn't shown, and I'll get into that now. Floyd Mayweather. Now, I watched that fight again the other day. I watched it loads. By the way, I've watched Canelo Williams Scott about 6 times. I'm not even joking. I've watched it 6 times. No one on the planet has watched that fight 6 times. I'm just saying. Um, Floyd in that fight was that might be one of the best Floyd Mayweather's ever. That fight performance wise. I want to say it's underrated, but it's obviously not. He beat Canelo, but that was a good version of Floyd. Look at Floyd. Floyd was very fast twitch, and his reflexes have always been obviously brilliant. Even at the age he was there, was like 35, 36. He was very twitchy in that fight against Canelo. He'd kind of throw his jab, and he'd be immediately out the pocket. There was no throw the jab, look to sit down on the right hand and gain his respect. It was throw the jab, move, frustrate him, and keep doing that. That fight was a master. Like, actually, to be fair, both of the fights, Bivol and Floyd put on masterclasses in perpetual motion. Um, Floyd was just too hard to pin down in that fight, and he kind of gave Canelo. That was such a masterclass. It really was. Canelo got fucking schooled. How one judge gave that a draw, I'll never know. But he gave Canelo. He literally. I'm struggling with what to say for that fight. Canelo was because Floyd just took everything away from him. Right at long range, he couldn't. He wasn't there. Floyd would hit him and he'd just be gone because he was that fast twitch and quick. Floyd's also one of the quickest boxers ever. Floyd's rapid. That's another thing about Floyd. People talk about the defense and that, but like he was quick. Like his hands were quick. Yeah, he kind of take a chunk out of Canelo, move really quickly, fast twitch. Canelo couldn't get to him on the outside. So I was like, oh, okay, let me ramp up the aggression, trying to get on the inside. Couldn't do that. He's too hard to pin down. Crawford in his career, and it's similar thing with Bivol. Bivol was just Bivol put on a masterclass of timing, I would say, because you look at Canelo, he does this thing with his feet where he kind of brings the back foot forward. In boxing, you always taught to bring whatever direction you're moving in, bring the foot closest to that direction first, and then follow with the other. So you're moving forward, front foot, back foot. You move into left, back, left foot, right foot. Moving to the right, right foot, left foot, backwards, back foot, front foot. That's the way you're taught to move. Canelo kind of does this thing to kind of disguise the movement, so he gets closer to the opponent without the opponent realizing. Where he kind of moves the back foot first, brings it towards the front foot, then steps to the foot first, and it kind of disguises the movement. Bivol would recognize that movement because he's so aware. His vision's brilliant, right? As Crawford's is as well. His vision is that great where he'd recognize that and he'd just explode with 3 straight shots, and that would knock Canelo off balance. Bivol could move, get himself into a better position. So whenever he would literally pause Canelo, Canelo's obviously a pressure fighter. So when Canelo's trying to pressure him, which is his game, Bivol's shutting that game off by knocking him off balance because of this technique Canelo uses. I was going to call it a technical flaw. It is a technical flaw, but at some point in boxing, you become so good, um, you can get away with things like that, which is exactly what's happened with Canelo until you get in there with someone who is so good, like Canelo is, but never abandon the basics. Some guys will get so good at the basics and then will start adding these little complexities to it. Whereas Bibble's got so good at the basics and just kept on with the basics. He hasn't got a need for these little techniques. He kind of just the basics get him everywhere, which is true in boxing. The basics get you everywhere. It's a very clever thing for Canelo to do. I'm not saying he shouldn't do it. It's a very clever thing for him to do because it disguises the movement. But do you know what I mean? You get in there for a fighter who's just as good as you at the basics. No, wait. What I'm trying to say is like getting there for a fighter just as good. You get in there like it's hard to describe, but Bivol's so good at the basics. Anything you do, that's I would say flashy, but it does work. It's not flashy. But any of those kind of techniques where I would call them advanced techniques, but I think the basics are the most advanced techniques in boxing because it takes you so far. I call it a trick. It's a trick. That's a trick what Canelo does. Those tricks will get you so far against everyone because you're so levels above them, but you get in there with a master of the basics and those tricks, you'll come unstuck. That's the perfect way to put it. There you go. Put it correctly. And yeah, that's what Bivol does. His ring generalship and his positioning is beautiful. You can't get him on the ropes in the corner for too long. He'll find the way out and keep himself very defensively. He'll stay very defensively aware while he's getting himself out of those positions. He knows when to focus on offense or when to focus on defense. He can switch between the two beautifully. Um, and yeah, but I think the thing Bivol did where he kind of caught Canelo bringing his feet together was while that is a technical thing, his size and him being the more natural, not the biggest light heavyweight, but him being the more natural light heavyweight definitely helped because that power helped set Canelo off balance. But I do think Bud can use that to his advantage because we're going to get into the fact people think what people are saying about the power. That obviously, I agree with the fact that Crawford has never been there with the type of power of Canelo. I believe that power could trouble him, but it's the type of thing where It I believe that. I'll go with that narrative that he's never been an NFL guy who hits as hard as Canelo. Cool. And I'll get into why that could be a problem for Crawford later. But saying Crawford might not be able to keep Canelo off of him is a little bit silly because Crawford we've seen is a good puncher. I've already disproved why the Madrimov fight. People say he lost his power at 154. I've already disproved that. I've already said why. I think Crawford might be punching a bit harder than he was because of the extra muscle and that. Canelo Floyd was able to sting him and keep him off of him. Fine, you might say that's not Canelo now. That's a rawer, more green Canelo. Cool. All right, fine. I can 100%. I can agree with that. Bivol. Bivol was able to keep him off despite not being the biggest puncher in the world. Yeah, but he's bigger. Okay. Okay. Yeah. People like Erislandi Lara. No, actually, you know what? I can think of a better example. Billy Joe Saunders. And I'm not using this, by the way, as to say why Crawford's going to win because my pick is Canelo. Remember that. Billy Joe Saunders was able to keep Canelo off of him, right? And that was probably Canelo's best performance ever. It's up there, right? Billy Joe Saunders was able to keep Canelo off him and gain some momentum in that fight. Billy Joe Saunders was not a puncher in any weight division. He had no advantages over Canelo in that fight. He was a middleweight who went up to super middleweight. There were talks earlier in Billy Joe Saunders' career of him being able to make 154 pounds, just not being disciplined enough to make that weight. So Canelo started at 154 pounds. So they were similar sized people in reality, right? Billy Joe might have been taller, but I mean body density kind of thing. Canelo's just as, if not more. Billy Joe Saunders was able to keep him off him for a few rounds. And Billy Joe Saunders did get Canelo's respect in that fight. He landed a few decent shots. But of course, Canelo did get to him, which is why I'm not using that as a defense of why Crawford's going to win. Because at the end of the day, I don't think Crawford's going to win. I don't think he'll get to him as badly. I don't think Canelo will get to him as badly as he did Billy Joe Saunders. But saying that Crawford won't be able to keep him off of him with the accuracy and timing he has. It doesn't even come down to power, right? I have this saying, precision beats power, so accuracy beats power, and timing beats speed. Now, obviously, Canelo hasn't got the speed advantage against Crawford, but Crawford has got the timing and the accuracy to catch Canelo with shots that aren't going to drop him, ain't going to knock him out, might even not, but they'll buzz him. They'll buzz him. I guarantee you they'll buzz him, right? I've been hit by smaller people and I've been like, where I'm a heavyweight, right? Where I'm a heavyweight, I'm super heavyweight in the amateurs. Where I'm super heavyweight, I get hit by these lighter guys. It doesn't rock me, it doesn't hurt me, but where it's so quick and so accurate because they're so skilled, I kind of go, oh, okay. I don't want to keep. This is a bad look if I keep coming forward and getting hit by these shots. If this was a fight, I'm getting pinged with the cleaner, more accurate shots, right? And they're very clear because they're very well timed. So it kind of it puts you in your place a bit more. It might not be hurting you the most, but I'm telling you now, he can get his respect. I'm telling you. And if he can't, it's because Canelo's so defensively good, because Canelo is very defensively good. Even now, he's still very defensively capable. Think about his last couple of fights. Even though they've been kind of underwhelming decisions from Canelo, has he really been taking that much damage? No. Has he been the one pressing the action? Yes. He's the one pressing the action. He's not taking damage. I don't think he's as good defensively as he was a few years ago because the head movement isn't as nimble and isn't as good. He doesn't use it as much, but his high guard and his ability to roll with shots is still there and his chin's still there. But Crawford can definitely get his respect with timing and accuracy. Plus, he will have a bit of power. He might not necessarily be the same puncher he was. He could be because of the muscle, but let's say he's not. But he will have a bit of power. We all agree he's a powerful guy. And he will have speed, timing, and accuracy. All of those things will get Canelo's respect, I guarantee you, if the fight goes the way I'm saying it. In this hypothetical situation where Crawford gets a bit of momentum and lands shots like that. It another thing, the weight. This is why I mentioned, I mentioned 24 minutes ago, 23 minutes ago about the intangibles. The weight's the biggest intangible. Not only the fact Crawford might not have had much time to grow into the weight class, it's the fact that to be at this weight class, for him to box at this weight class, because obviously it isn't his natural weight, because if it was his natural weight, he would have lost 10 pounds in camp and will probably weigh in at 158 pounds, which you can't weigh in at, obviously, because he wouldn't be a super middleweight. He'd be middleweight. Would he be a middleweight? Yeah. He can't, so he's had to gain weight to maintain this weight, right? And it's the fact that he's never boxed with that weight on him. That weight isn't ideal boxing weight for him. And his legs, he's going to have to use his legs in this fight. This is one thing that's commonly agreed. Canelo, in his career, he struggled with people with good legs, right? He struggled with guys like Floyd, obviously, great footwork. Bivol, phenomenal footwork. Erislandy Lara, brilliant footwork. He struggled against these slick, quick people. These quick and slick fighters give him trouble. Now, why I do think Crawford is capable of boxing very similar to that. If Crawford boxes like that and it doesn't go his way, because say Crawford, the fight starts, Crawford kind of gets he gets some early momentum because Canelo's a slow starter. I know Crawford's a slow starter himself, but say Crawford gets some early momentum in this fight, but then his legs start to gas. Right, he starts to kind of feel the weight. The weight starts to wear on him. What Crawford does when he's down in the fight, when he against Sean Porter, when they said he was down, what does he do? He stands in the pocket, and he's a very strong man, Crawford, especially for those weight classes. He's very very strong. He stands in the pocket and he uses his athletic gifts and his strength to force himself to win that fight. That's essentially what he did against Sean Porter, right? He got told he was down and he went, "Nah, I'm not having this. Nah, I'm gonna bully you. I'm gonna enforce my will on you." So what I'm saying, if he gets in a position where his legs start failing him against Canelo, he realizes, oh, okay, I need to switch up my tactics. He does that, and he does what he normally resorts to, which I don't think he will, because he's in no reality is he going to want to stand in the pocket against Canelo. First of all, he gets knocked out if he stands in the pocket against Canelo. If he doesn't, then Canelo will chip away at him, break him down. Maybe a late stoppage, maybe a decision. So, if I had to, obviously my pick's Canelo. My pick's by Canelo by this. Also, one thing: Vegas, Canelo, judges. 3 words. These judges in Vegas gave Canelo a draw against Floyd. They made the scorecards very close against Bivol. He got a 118, 110 against Golovkin. He apparently won, according to a judge, that Golovkin fight, the first one, 10 rounds to 2. Golovkin won that fight. Should have, anyway. If I had to say the way the fight's going to go, I think both men are going to come out. I think it's going to be a very slow first round. They're very slow starters, both of them. They're both renowned for it. They both like to make their reads. I think that's what's going to come out. They're both going to come out. It's going to be a tentative first round. They make their reads. It's not going to be the most riveting fucking thing in the world to watch. And then I think for the next 4 rounds after that, kind of going into the fifth, I think Crawford's going to be the one who's going to build. The first round's going to be a 10-10. The next round, 4 rounds after that, Crawford will build some momentum, and you think, oh, okay, Crawford's getting a lead here. Like, it's going to be very, I think it will be very cagey. I don't think it will be the most enthralling fight. I think it'll be entertaining from a technical perspective, but I think those kind of 4 rounds after the first round's going to be very cagey, very tentative, because they both like to figure each other out. The next 5 are going to be Crawford rounds, but they're going to be very marginal. They're not going to be like clear, like, oh, Crawford's fucking boxing in of him. Look, he's stinging him with shots, getting his respect. Do you know what I mean? It's not going to be that kind of like that would be a masterclass. That it's going to be very okay. Crawford's landing, Canelo's landing one good one. Crawford's landing kind of three shots. Canelo's landing one quality. Crawford's landing 3 volume. Good technique. Obviously, they're not going to be just tippy tappy shots, but they're going to be, compared to Canelo's, they're going to have a significantly less thump on them. That's how it's going to go. But then I think Crawford's going to start to feel the weight. I think his legs are going to start to feel with the muscle, the added muscle, which I assume is how he's done it. If he hasn't added muscle, then he's going to be in bad shape. So it's probably got to be muscle, right? With the added muscle, the body's got to supply more oxygen to them. I think after 5 rounds, he's going to really start to feel that. He's going to really, 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 really start to feel that weight on him, and I think then Canelo will start getting to him with the body shots and headshot, like with the, fuck's sake, I can't speak. And then I think Canelo's going to start to get to him with the shots to the body, and I think he's going to start breaking him down. And then I think from that point, it's going to be Canelo, and I think Crawford will definitely do enough to survive, but I don't think we'll see many more rounds won from Crawford. I think it will kind of go. Canelo starts to take over the momentum. Crawford might get 1 round after that. He kind of loses the sixth, loses the seventh, wins the eight because he's kind of got a bit. He's like the life's been reinvigorated into him. He loses the ninth, loses the 10th, loses the 11th, and then puts in a really good effort in the 12th round. Um, I think after the fifth round, Canelo will start to get to him with the body shots. I think he will start being able to close the distance. I think Canelo will struggle with the foot speed where his feet have slowed down, and Crawford is obviously the more smaller man, so you assume he's got the quicker feet. Even though Crawford isn't, he's never really been a mover, but he definitely can move. Um, like I said, he's very good all round. Um, I think Canelo will struggle with the foot speed, but I think, like I said, the legs will start to go. Canelo will start to be able to close the distance. I think he's going to blind Crawford with jabs up top. But I think, you know how Canelo kind of steps in, he kind of throws two kind of throwaway jabs that aren't really intending to even land, let alone damage. And then he'll kind of blast a shot either over the top or to the body. I think that's what Canelo's going to start to do. I think he's going to find it easy to close the distance. He's going to kind of get behind that blinding jab. He's going to rip to the body for a right hook, sometimes turn it into an overhand. I don't think he'll have a lot of success with the overhand, but I think he'll have success with the right hook to the body, where he'll obviously get Crawford's hands to go up. And then I think Crawford will kind of adapt to that. But then I think at that point he would have slowed him down so much with the body shots that Canelo can start to kind of, like I said, where he's so good at picking his shots, um, mix it up, start getting in shots to the head. I just think he's going to take over momentum gradually, break him down, and there's not going to be much Crawford can do because naturally, like he would have the added muscle would have slowed him down, and Canelo's also took notice of that, realized he's got an advantage, closed the distance, and started digging down shots to the body, which has slowed him down. I can't see a world in which Crawford gets knocked out because I know what kind of fighter Crawford is, and I know he will never give up. Obviously, yeah, I just don't see Crawford getting knocked out, man. Crawford does take a few shots, but like I said earlier, when he starts bullying people, he does take shots when he kind of stands in the pocket. But like I said, he's not going to stand in the pocket in this fight. He's a very smart fighter. We know the tactics from Crawford are going to be to move. It's going to be to move. It's going to be perpetual motion, but not like William Skull because he knows the judges in Vegas are strict with Canelo opponents to say the least. So he's going to be trying to get into Canelo's respect. He's going to try and set Canelo off balance with when he brings his feet together, try and disguise the forward pressure. And I think Crawford put in a really good effort for those first few rounds, but then I think you know the added weight will start to fail him, and then I think Canelo will take advantage of that. Um, Maybe Canelo could stop him because I could see with all the talk recently of Canelo, oh Canelo's slowing down, oh Canelo's this, Canelo's that, that Canelo's like, right, I'm going to try and make a statement. But I don't know. I don't know with Canelo. I feel like Canelo, like, why would Canelo care? Like, he's Canelo, and you don't really care. Um, yeah, that's my general breakdown. I'm sorry that it's probably not. It probably felt a bit all over the place. I got 34 minutes out of it, which I'm fucking happy with. That I got such. I think I ticked all the boxes. Um, I don't think I ticked all the boxes in the most coherent fashion, but I think I'm happy with this video. I think. It's if you want to know why I sound so fucking weird, it's 5:30 in the morning. Um, it is what it is, but I needed to get this prediction out. I'm gonna probably spend all day yet tomorrow trying to edit it. Um, yeah, I think I got my thoughts across pretty well. I'm trying to think of anything else I haven't gone over. Yeah, no, I don't rule out a Crawford win. I really don't rule it out. I think it's completely possible, but I only think it's possible if Canelo slow down to a point where hmm, it's an interesting fight. But yeah, I only think it's possible if Canelo slow down to such a point where he simply hasn't got it to the extent he Canelo's gonna have to slow down to a point where he can't see Crawford's punches. Like he just can't defend, he can't react anymore, which I don't think he's to that point. When you're at that point, you're shot to bits and you're not an undisputed world champion. Even if you agree with me in the fact that he should have fought David Benavidez and he might not have been the best super middleweight on the planet, to be at that level in that contention, you can still see the shots coming, you can still defend. Because when you're at the point where your reactions have gone, um, yeah, and I don't think Canelo's shot to pieces. I think he slowed down significantly, but I don't think he's shot to bits. Yeah, that's my thoughts, Canelo. Canelo by decision. Um, thank you for watching. I'm sorry this is a bit of a muddled mess, but I'm sleep deprived. It's 5:30 in the morning. At least I got my prediction out there. Bye.